Geneva, Switzerland, and speak to James Elder, the spokesperson for the UN Children's Agency, UNICEF. James, thank you so much indeed for your time. When people like you go to Gaza, it may make a bigger difference than local reporters simply because of the stature of the organization for which you work. Some of the material you've been putting on social media, it's kind of heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking, not kind of heartbreaking. There was one moment when you met a young boy who had been hit by shrapnel while he was going to collect firewood, and you told the viewers, I don't want to film this, and you don't want to watch it. But you, James, understood it's your duty to show the world what happened to the boy. Tell us about him.
Yeah, and that was during the ceasefire. That little boy was wounded during the ceasefire, 9 years old, lying in a hospital bed, as so many of these children are, with a mother and a father fretting over them, desperately hoping for medical evacuation, which speaks to, again, what your correspondent was saying about why Rafah is so important. And this little boy, terrified, in pain, again, a lack of painkillers for these horrific wounds, and simply going about trying to collect firewood, which he shouldn't have to do because families should be in homes with cooking gas, but there's been great restrictions on cooking gas. So trying to collect firewood, Abid al-Rahman is his name, and an air attack and shrapnel, again, ripping through, well, it rips through everything, and he has shrapnel in his eye. Now, he'll lose that eye if he doesn't get medical evacuation. And I've spoken so much about what shrapnel does, and it was when I was in Gaza 2 weeks ago that I held a piece, Adnan, and it was no longer than your index finger, but it was so sharp. It was razor sharp in every direction, and so I held it in my hand in such a way that, I thought the slightest movement would cut me, and that's what's ripping through people's tents. That's what, when another little boy who was lying between his parents, he was so frightened when the missile struck, and both his mum and his dad on either side of him were killed. He was dragged from the rubble. So these are the stories that we carry with ourselves. But there should be no reason that my reporting gives any more credibility than those very, very brave Palestinian journalists who don't leave Gaza and who don't have the same levels of protection that I have when I'm on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. But the fact that they're Palestinian will always have some people wondering whether those journalists have an agenda. We know that their bravery has shown the world exactly what Israel has been doing. James, there then becomes a political issue. We know what the attitude of Israel is generally to the United Nations. So many of its agencies have been labeled as anti-Semitic. So many of its decisions that Tel Aviv doesn't like are labeled as anti-Semitic. How do you, as UNICEF, continue to drive the UN's values without becoming anti-Israeli or anti the Israeli government?
Oh, look, it's very easy since World War II, we've worked around the world in the most difficult, complicated circumstances, and we will work with anyone. We work with government actors, we work with non-state actors, because our mandate is about reaching children first and foremost.
Yes, but the UN is making it more difficult for you, James. That's the issue. Surely it should be making it easier for you. You do humanitarian work.
Look, absolutely. Our work should be much easier, particularly when you're in Gaza, particularly when we had a famine and we weren't talking about needing to do airdrops. All the food that was needed was just across a border. We know that was engineered, but at the same time, because we have worked with so many difficult state and non-state actors, that's why in the last week we've got in thousands of recreation kits, thousands of education kits. That's why on the back of Palestinian ingenuity, we are finally rebuilding some of the water systems. So it shouldn't be like this, but at the same time, we shouldn't have had indiscriminate attacks on children. We shouldn't have seen hospitals hit. We shouldn't have had children starved. Unfortunately, as a humanitarian, not a political worker, organization rather, that's the environment. These are the actors we need to work with and have any discussion with the end point always, can we reach that child?
How much do you work with NGOs as well? And can the UN deliver for the people of Gaza, as well as the occupied territories who have been terrorized for more than 2 years and longer? How much can you do it on your own as the UN and your multiple agencies? Because 37 NGOs, of course, have now been banned from operating in Gaza. International NGOs banned by Israel.
No, it's a great question, Adnan. You can't. And particularly because of we've got to talk of the severity of what's happened in Gaza. I can talk of, UNICEF delivering 1 million blankets through partners, or hundreds of thousands of winter kits through partners. But even as I do that, despite everything that's being done, it's miserable in Gaza, and that speaks to how brutal this war's been. So we need everyone on the ground. We need all these NGOs. They are absolutely fundamental, critical partners. Now, I think UNICEF and WFP, World Food Programme, have got something like 80% of humanitarian trucks in during the ceasefire. Great. When we do that, we work with partners on the ground. We work with Palestinians on the ground. So those organisations have two roles. One is that they are embedded in communities. They know how things work, and they are our critical, brave partner to do a lot of deliveries, whether it's immunisation, whether it's in schools, whether it's nutrition. At the same time, I think they also bear witness. It goes back to your first question, Adnan, that real criticality of like trying to share to the world what has been happening to children. So I think it's problematic on two levels. One, we need them there to deliver, and two, we need them there to bear witness. If there's a third, of course, it is simply a breach of international humanitarian law. They can't be banned, or they should not be banned under those laws.
James, we're out of time, but just correct me if I'm wrong. You're at James Elder. Is that correct? Your tag on Twitter?
Goodness me, I should know. I think it's one James Elder. Yes, Instagram is what I use much more, which is James_Elder.
Okay, well, whatever they are, whether it's Instagram or whether it's X, anybody watching, if you want to see James's eyewitness accounts of what he has seen in Gaza, please head to James's social media accounts. James Elder, thank you so much.
Thanks, Adnan.